Hi,
Hi.
I am KP Kaszubowski. If you're watching this, you're likely on the youtube.com. And I am an astrologer and an artist and a writer and a friend to Eileen Stillwell, who's with us today.
Um,
Eileen's an artist, a writer, many things, public health advocate, many things. And we'll listen to their self-chosen bio throughout this conversation. But the purpose of this creative access interview is that I want to hear artists' processes and how they make art, like what type of art they make, what's difficult, what's easy for them, and how they get into the process. From my perspective as an astrologer, I want to make connections to the person who's speaking and their chart. So across this conversation, I might be interjecting with some interpretations from the chart. And when I do that, I will put a snapshot of the chart on the screen if you want to follow along. But I'll do my best to describe everything I'm seeing without saying numbers and beeps and boops so that you understand where the interpretations are coming from. Okay, so that's the intro. There will be 52 of these interviews.
That's
It's
a
the
big
goal,
job,
and it
babe.
will happen. Two or more. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it forever. In 2026, 2027. And I hope that people we interview are all very different from each other so that if there's someone who has maybe the same rising sign as you and maybe the same art medium as you could watch that and get some insight into your own processes. Okay, so here we begin. Lean, can you tell us just like what's the basic bio of yourself, and then we'll go into the details.
Bios are hard for me
Yeah.
because I feel like I have different facets of my life. I have like one, and it's been like this since I was a kid. I have like my math science brain that's always been really strong. I skipped a grade in math between like sixth and eighth grade. Like I really like math. I think it's really cool and really loved biology. I love health. I have a public health job, like you say. Um, and then there's also always been like a part of me that loved getting lost in books, loved drawing, loved writing, would write like novels when I was a kid that were like very loosely novels I had read. Like how kids like write novels that are basically novels that they just read. So it was always kind of hard for me to like merge those two into like one singular bio. But been trying to think about like what connects those two things. And I think really it's like observation. Like for both like the public health aspect and the health aspect of my life and then like the artistic aspect of my life, there's a lot of like observing the world around me and seeing how it works, what's
Yeah.
interesting about it. And then like on the one hand it's like making it more effective, making it better for people, more equitable for people. And then with art it's like how do I mirror that or make it more creative or put my spin on it. But at the root there's like that observation.
I love, as your astrologer, your current astrologer, I love this. We'll talk about that later, but the word observation, like you have a super powered Mercury, which means that you can see and process information faster than most people. And
Mm.
also your rising sign is Virgo rising. So
Oh,
you have these like emphasis on being able to like really see the details of something. And I
yeah.
also like what you're saying, like, and also to like improve people's lives. It's not
Yeah.
like it is the act of observation, and that alone is perfect. But then taking it a step further of like,
Mhm.
okay, how can we improve this? How can we make this more humane for everyone?
Yeah.
I love okay, wow, what a bio. That's the bio I wanna hear. I don't wanna hear, like, graduated to well, I do wanna hear that, but, oh, so great. Okay, so from here, can you talk to us about your mediums, and then we'll talk about your processes?
Sure. So again, kind of hard to talk about mediums. I have a lot of different mediums, I feel like, especially when it comes to the creative side. I crochet and I knit. I would say I do that kind of wonkily. It's more for like the like process of actually like doing the knitting, like feeling the like repetitive motion. Then when I finish something, I'm like, cool. It's not like so much the end goal for me with that as much as like
Yeah.
the process. I also draw. That's a big thing in my family is drawing. And then I write. I'm a poet.
Do you write prose other
Not
than your
very
12
much,
novels?
no.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've read prose from you at all. Okay. Yeah, and your poetry is full of observation, and it's so personal at the same time. It's like that objective, subjective
Mm.
like seamless dance. It feels like,
Like push and pull, yeah.
yeah, I'll link to Eileen's poems wherever I can in the description. You have to read them. Okay, so it's good. I love talking to artists who have many mediums. I think that's important in the world, but also it's okay if you don't have many mediums, no judgment. But can we talk about, let's start with your writing process. Like
Yeah.
how does it look like in your head or your soul? Like what happens when you're writing, composing something?
Yeah. So I'm not a person that writes every day. I I know a lot of people feel like it's important to like get something on the page every day, and that's not who I am. For me, I feel like, and I've think we've discussed this before, where I feel like I have like maybe 5 or 6 like big topics or big like images or ideas that I kind of carry around in my head at all times. Grief is one of them. Things related to the body and like illness or like feeling things in the body is one of them. Joy is one of them. Healing is one of them. Teeth is one of them. Things like that. And then like as I kind of go through life, every once in a while something will like spark on one of those themes or multiple of those themes. And that's kind of what gets the juices flowing. Like I kind of always am swirling around with those ideas, but
Uh,
it will be like seeing something or connecting something between those that actually like a phrase will pop into my head or an image will kind of stick out to me. And then I can start building
yeah.
like a poem.
Does it feel like contrast makes, maybe not contrast is the word, but it's because there are more than one thing, the
Yeah.
speaking? Okay.
Yeah. Like I would say like it's very important to me to have like juxtaposition, maybe is
Yeah.
the word more than contrast. But I always kind of want to have like I think Annie Grizzle, who's a friend of ours, once described it as like having lift in a poem where it's not just like everything is on one level, but there's kind of like there's kind of like a little flight like to the poem where like everything is like you expect it to go one way and then it kind of flies off the page a little bit in a different way that you weren't
Yeah.
expecting because of that like push and pull, that juxtaposition.
Yeah. This is okay. This is such a segue. I just need like 30 seconds. My grandpa passed a couple weeks ago. And okay, this is where I'm gonna start. He flew and sold ultralights, which are like experimental aircrafts that like killed a lot of people because they were not built for safety.
Yeah.
And over time, his friends were dying too much. He
Yeah.
decided to like disable his ultralights that he was selling so they could just jump off the ground like 4 feet, and that was flying.
I love that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what it reminds me of. It's like you don't want the poem to like crash and burn.
Yeah.
You want it just like a little bit of a lift so that it keeps
Yeah,
going.
exactly. I love
Yeah,
that. That kind of feels like a
yeah,
poem to me too.
yeah. So that's been in the back of my head, and now I'm gonna think about Annie Grizzle and you, and those weed hoppers is what he called them. Yeah, when I'm writing a poem next, that's my next prompt.
Yeah, I love
Write
that.
write a weed
I'm
hopper
sorry
poem.
about your loss.
Oh, he had a really good life.
Oh, good.
I was. Is this where this interview is going? Maybe we could talk about grandpas actually and grief.
Yeah,
And actually, we should because I think that your experience in the pandemic was really important. Anyway, so he was 85, 80, 85. He had a good death, which is something that felt kind of strange to talk about at his funeral, but he died quickly after having a stroke, not in pain. His pain was monitored, but he wasn't in pain. He got to say goodbye to every single person that was close to him, like friends too.
that's amazing.
And while he was passing, he also got to open his eyes and look at his wife of like, I don't know, 60 something years. So like he
Mhm.
had a really good death and a good
Yeah.
life. And the end of his life, like he was still like talking about UFOs and like researching World War II and like,
No.
he was still like active in all these things and he had a lot of friends at his home. So it was it was like the first funeral I've ever been to where it felt like truly like a celebration.
Yeah.
And like there's a little crying, but it wasn't like devastating?
Yeah.
It was like, this guy was really funny, and he also made a UFO replica that had the FBI come to his house and ask him what he was doing. He was interesting guy. Yeah. It was good. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your 2020. Was it 2020, 2021?
It was 2020 into 2021 because I was teaching, I was a TA and I had started public health school at Madison in like 2019, 2020. And the pandemic hit. I had to switch all of my course. Like I was teaching a course at the Women and Gender Studies department. All of a sudden it was all online and I had come home for spring break and I just didn't go back to Madison. Something my gut was like, I need to be in Milwaukee. And I had a grandpa who was 88 at that point. And I was like, why would I go back to Madison when my grandpa is here and we're
Yeah,
in a worldwide pandemic? And he ended up passing the next year in 2021 in April. Because I was in Milwaukee, I was able to get the vaccine early and help take care of him. I was able to be in the hospice with him during like his like right before he died, the day before he died. We got to sing to him, everything, but he was a prolific artist, amazing at watercolors, an amazing drawer, like able to draw a drawer. Is that a word? And he was the person who taught me to draw. So it was really important to me, like it's so interesting, like, how, like, you have a relationship with your grandparents when you're young, and then, like, as you get older, you, like, have this whole different relationship with them as
yeah,
an adult. So, it was important for me to be here, like, as an adult to see my grandpa off.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of your writing came from this moment, if not like the reflection of it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it did, and a lot of it came a couple years later because there was a lot of grief around that, I think, and a lot of just like not knowing how to process it. I don't think we talk about death a lot in our
Yeah,
society. I don't think we like prepare for death a lot in our society. And I actually started writing in earnest after doing about 2 months of prolonged exposure therapy. So it was like a very intense everyday trauma therapy for like 3 to 6 hours every day.
yeah,
Uh, and that kind of just like unleashed all these emotions that I was like, "What?" Not keep in anymore. So it kind of like gave me like all these things that like I needed to get out and write about in some ways, including like seeing my grandpa off and like having that like ending with him. But it also was like the first time I had words for it, I think. I think like having been like not working through trauma for so long, it gets kind of like numbed and like deadened. And I
yes.
didn't just like have any words to like say anything. Like if I tried to write, it was just like so like bumping up against a wall, like that feeling every time because I just like couldn't express anything.
I really don't want to interject with the chart, but I'm just gonna say
You
that
can.
so there's the third house, there's 12 houses. The third house is where our cognition or our ability to express how we learn how to express is denoted. And you have some interesting placements there. But what's interesting most to me right now is that the ruler of that house is in your house of like deep psychological moments or moments where we go really deeply inward and things are drawn out. And it's often very messy. Like the eighth house
Yeah.
is the house where we have no control. And it also has a lot to do with other people
Mm,
or like ghosts. It can be like the ghost of someone or
yeah.
your perception of an event from your childhood usually is that eighth house energy. And that the ruler is Mars in also his favorite sign or his home sign of
Yeah.
Aries. So there's just like a lot of fire energy, a lot of fire energy. Both Scorpio and Aries have this like knife energy. They rule
Yeah.
knives or swords, or like they rule the impulse to cut or sever.
Yeah.
So I imagine a lot of your writing comes from this like exploration of things that must be like drawn out in a messy way.
Yeah.
Messy is not a kind word, but it's
But
harder.
no, I understand what you mean. I think, like, that rings true to me, like, I think at first it really was, like, a process of just, like, excising a wound almost, like, it felt like I was just, like and at first I didn't wanna share poetry at all with people because I was like,
Yeah,
"This is just, like, for me to get stuff out," and, like, some of my first poems were about, like reasons that like people would put in my chart, like protective factors against suicide, things like
Yeah.
that. And like now they're not quite so pointed, I would say. But like yeah, like they were very like messy is a word that kind of fits.
Yeah. Well, that energy is always dangerous. It's varying levels of danger is what
Yeah.
that energy is called for. Like that house does not allow like, oh yeah, that was kind of a bad time. I felt sad. Like it's not you can't do that with that energy. It
Yeah.
has to go straight to the core and pull like the dead carcass energy out.
Yeah.
And when you feel the danger level lessen, it's because you've done the good work of pulling out at the roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like that was like, because like for people who don't know what prolonged exposure therapy is, it's like basically psychological torture where you pick the worst experience of your life and then you describe it to a therapist while it's being recorded, sound recorded in great detail, every sight, every thought, every sound, every smell over and over. And then you listen to the recordings back the next day.
Yeah.
And then you do that over and over and over until you're kind of desensitized to it. So it is like very much that process that you're describing was kind of the impetus of me starting to write.
Yeah. This I I don't have experience with that. I do wonder if that is like really helpful for people who have your eighth house connection. But then it's also something I want to say is that eighth house energy has a really hard time coming forth if you don't feel safe in other ways. So
Mm.
it also makes sense to me that you were like with a professional
Yeah.
and like other factors of your life might have made your body feel safe enough for things to come out. This makes me think of like when people quit smoking, trauma usually surfaces because finally the body can rest enough and has a fewer toxins so that other things can be released. For anyone who's listening, that's why I'm saying that is that when you're doing eighth house work, you really need to also think about safety,
Yeah.
security, because it's dangerous.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. When I was doing that type of therapy, I was sober. I had been in remission from an eating disorder for years, and they were monitoring those things. Um, they were doing group therapy as well. We were processing all the time. There were like all these other safeguards to like not just be like pulling at like these strings all the time. So
Yeah.
it's like really intense stuff.
Yeah, and the amount of energy that psychic level of work takes, it's like you in those situations, you often have to eat more or you have to eat
Mhm.
differently. You have to drink a lot more water. Like it's your body is responding as if you're living like three different lives at once. Like
Yeah.
that's another like if we're thinking about the astrological opposition of the second and the eighth house, the second house is all about material security. And that
Mm,
includes like the fat deposits on your body, things that make you physically feel like you won't die. And the
yeah.
eighth house is about like what may kill you, death, what
Yeah.
you are not secure from or not safe from. So that's another thing to think about with astrology is that when you're doing something, the opposite often allows that something to occur better.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And you have your moon in the second house, which I think is important to point out directly opposite that Mars. So the moon has a lot to do with the body's functions and rhythms and security, water levels. So that's another, I think that's why I'm mentioning it is that when you're doing this deep, deep work, your body is an opponent at the same time as they are allowing that to
Huh. That's so interesting.
more so for you than anyone else.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very human thing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then I think that also relates to like if we're thinking in the opposite way, like if your body's doing deep work, like if you're getting a massage or maybe you're running or something that takes a lot
Mhm.
of bodily exertion, basically, then the deep psychic work maybe needs to take a pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just had ankle surgery and I've been like, I need to be chill. I need to
Yeah.
not be like thinking deep thoughts right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back, the reason why I brought up the eighth house is because the third house is ruled by Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars in the eighth house. I brought up the second house because your moon in Libra is directly opposite Mars. So there's a lot of interplay between the second, third, 8th house, and then I'm sure there's other things happening. So I wonder if also your body has so much to do with your writing or your learning or your teaching. The 3rd house has a lot to do with teaching, but teaching less in the like philosophical way and more in the like making sense of world life things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, yeah, because
Like,
the
do you
body
use
comes
your
up a
body
lot.
to speak or learn?
Um, I feel like the body comes up a lot in my work. Like
Yeah.
like, I talk about, like, the body a lot, and I move my hands a lot when I talk,
Yeah.
like, I'm a big, like, mover, I, like, gesture a lot. When I can't get words out, I'm definitely, like, trying to, like, figure it out with my body, but definitely in my work, there's a lot about, like, just, like sometimes I almost describe it as, like, body horror, but it's not, like, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's not well, but there are moments that are, disarming.
Yeah,
Maybe not grotesque, but there's disarming connections to the body that I think are that do a great job of displaying what's happening emotionally.
yeah,
That's something to talk about or think about. And also I looked at your Mercury is making like one of the best connections to your moon. And they're both in air signs. Your mind or the way that you speak and communicate and your body are on a really tight team. Maybe there could be a risk of feeling too confident or too natural, that
yeah.
it may be harder for you to challenge yourself outside of the way you naturally speak or communicate. But we don't have to talk about cautions here when you have a good team, you know? Yeah, we don't have to. I'm just always like, "But what if? But what if?" Yeah. Where do you wanna go from here? Like, what's something on your mind with your process, or what has been difficult, I guess, for your art making?
I think something not necessarily like a difficulty, but something that, like, I take comfort in is the fact that I have, like, different mediums that I work in because sometimes, like, when I feel really stuck with writing, I switch to, like, the more tactile act of, like or knitting, or if I really can't figure out like, if I'm really stuck and I'm trying to draw and it's just all looking ugly, then I'm like, "Maybe it's a word day."
Yeah,
And then there are just I don't know if this is like a thing that changes with the chart, but when I was younger, I really felt like if I didn't like draw or write or like get everything out and like do it all the time, like constantly be like making art, that it was going to go away. That like I wasn't going to be an artist, like I would lose the ability. And that's kind of shifted for me where
yeah.
I can feel it go dormant and I'm not like scared that I'm going to like lose my creative ability. So I don't know if things like sometimes shift in big ways in the chart like
Oh, yeah.
that, but I'm interested in that.
Yeah, are you 32?
I'm 31. I'm turning 32 in May.
Okay. Yeah. So your Saturn return has completed. It
Mhm.
happened the exact date I couldn't tell you right away because that's a calculator. Where do we start with this? So your house of creation, the 5th house, is ruled by Capricorn. Capricorn is the first Saturn sign. The second Saturn sign is Aquarius, and that's right into your 6th house. So your 5th and 6th house are both ruled by the same planet, and that's going to be important soon. Capricorn is the archetype of doing things slow and steady. Saturn also influences this archetype by bringing fear and a little anxiety, but it's mostly fear into the mix. And what you said is like you fear that it will go away if you don't use it. Like that makes a lot of sense for your house of creation to be ruled by kind of a constricting or responsibility oriented sign that you would fear. You know, that good advice like you mentioned earlier is like write every day. Because
Yeah.
that's how you do it. That's how you can get to the point where you're a good writer. That's not true for everyone. You could say that a Capricorn 5th house would benefit from daily, slow and steady incremental growth. You could also like make a case for that Capricorn likes to do things in seasons or likes to do things in long-term projects. And my case for you is that you look more like someone who does something in 2.5 year or 7 year or 14 year or 28 year. That's like the Saturn
Yeah.
circle. Those kind of stints. So like I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, is there something you've done for 14 years
Trying to think.
that maybe you don't do anymore? Or like it could be like education. at this point in your life?
Yeah, I just applied for PhD programs though.
So when did you start undergrad?
Undergrad would have been 2012.
Okay, math. So then it would be 14 years since then.
Oh wow.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That doesn't quite line up because you would be entering another stint. But
Yeah.
that's something to think about with you is like, well, what were the last 2.5 years of your art practice? And like, was that satisfying? Do you need to keep going to make it a 7-year thing? Or is this something that builds into the next 2.5 year thing? Because that's how
Yeah.
Saturn energy works. That's how Capricorn energy works, is that
That's
it's
interesting.
so hard for other people to see or humans to see something that occurs over so much time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the way you create, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
Does that like resonate?
No, that does make sense.
The second layer of hell is what I've been saying, like, because in astrology, you can like make connections in layers. The
Yeah.
second layer of hell is that the ruler of your Capricorn house is in the house of others or close partnerships. This could be marriage. This could be business partner. This could be collaborator, could be client, if it's a
Yeah.
one-on-one client. Um, I'm wondering if there's also something connected to, this is not what we're talking about, connected to collaborations that feel satisfying when it comes to creating for you. And we've kind of talked about this before.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't done that many collaborations lately. So yeah.
So this, your question being like how things shift over time, usually Saturn energy in the chart is where we see a lot of the shifting. I wonder after age 30, so you're now at post 30, you're
Yeah.
in the second room of Saturn life, so there's 30-year rooms. Maybe the second year includes more collaboration, or maybe like you do find that artistic partner that you work with for 28 years or something like that.
Yeah.
There's also like the thing with Saturn energy is like it could be completely opposite. Like you have the energy in that house of collaboration, like close partnership. Saturn is there, and that could be like Saturn's like, I don't want to work with anyone unless they're worth their salt. And I don't think
Yeah.
anyone is. And
Yeah.
then maybe you're in the third room, you're like, okay, I think I found someone in my 60th year of life that is worth their salt and I can collaborate with them. Like that could also be what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's something really inextricable about partnership and creation. And it could be with ghosts, it could be with trees, doesn't have to be with humans.
Interesting.
Yeah. It could be with personas as well. As
Yeah.
long as the persona truly feels like an other where you can't predict what they're going to do, but they are a mirror for how you are.
Yeah.
So I threw a lot at you, but those are the possibilities that are coming to mind.
I'm kind of muddling through thinking about it.
Yeah. Another element is that the sixth house, I'm going to bring this back. The sixth house is the house of daily life or maintenance, including with the body. So, like what we do to stay alive, what we do
Yeah.
to ward off illness, what we do to ward off anything that doesn't get, like, that keeps us from doing well in our work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if your second room, 30-ish to 60-ish, also has a very different tone to maintenance for the body, the mind, and work.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the third layer, fourth layer of hell with every Virgo rising has this Saturn
Okay.
energy in the fifth and sixth house. So I say this to almost every Virgo rising. And I lost my train of thought. That's great. Fucking hell. My Saturn's mad at me. He's like, you're slandering me. Fucking hell.
But something about the fourth and fifth of Virgo.
Okay. This is what it is. So Saturn energy can make you feel like you're slower than other people, or you've taken so much time to get where other people got to in like 5 days.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Bethany Price. I'm a Capricorn rising, and she's a Mars ruled person, and she was a genius when like right out the womb. And I feel like it took me literally 3 decades to catch up to her. But the wisdom in that is that Saturn energy is not here to do the high powered, fast burst, like pops of energy type of creation. That's
Yeah.
for you as a fifth house Capricorn. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to be the people who can be steady enough, who can be determined enough to keep going so that this thing that needs that kind of devotion energy can be created. There are things that need Martian pops, fireworks energy to be created.
Yeah.
But what you are being called to in this lifetime is something that requires that feeling of like, well, I'm slower than everyone, or I haven't gotten there yet, or that person has a book released when they were 15, or like that kind of like,
Yeah.
it's not shame, maybe it could be shame, depending on the person, but it's like, it's not quite comparison either, but it's just like, why can't I get there?
Yeah.
But after 30, you start to realize like, oh, I am getting there. I'm just doing it in a way that's like fully weaving the hundreds and thousands of fibers together underneath the surface, so that when
Yeah.
I start to surface with it, it has integrity, like such strong integrity that it won't wither away if there's any adversity.
Yeah.
That's what I tell every Virgo rising when it comes to the fifth house. And this also relates to children. A lot of Virgo risings have children later in life. Later in life is such an approximal phrase too. Like 25 years old can be later in life for some people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we're thinking about creation or risk or play or joy, Virgo risings also have a difficult time experiencing pleasure and joy until later in life. That's things I just like to say up front, because it can be really difficult to have that energy. Like, why can't I just like sit and relax and have fun? Like
Yeah.
this person next to me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. That makes pretty true.
Okay. I want to hear what you're thinking though. Like, what comes to mind when I said like, why is Bethany Price a genius at 1 years old?
A 1 year old.
Yeah.
No, I think I've had a lot of like they felt like derailments where I was like I'm not gonna make it. And there was a lot of like pressure where I put on myself where I was like, I have to do this by a certain age. And then I kept like not reaching those benchmarks. And then I would be like, crap.
Yeah.
Like I would take a little longer in school, or I would need to like I graduated college like a couple years later than I thought I would, or things like that where I just like had to stretch a little bit, and I would be
Yeah.
like, crap, like this is gonna mess up the whole world tour, to quote Justin Timberlake. And it's something that I've had to like come to terms with and like kind of accept and like learn to love, is that like the road is not what you think it is, and like
Yes.
it's like very much you have to be adaptable, you have to like make plans but also be flexible, and like you're going to find the path when you're on it instead of like when you're making plans.
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah. Saturn also gives us delays. Okay. I think it is actually like poking me. It's like, stop slandering me. Saturn wants us to live well.
Yeah.
He wants us to live richly. And like I said, with the fireworks energy, like if we have a life full of fireworks, we will die very young,
Yeah.
and we will not experience all the love that we could have experienced in this life. So Saturn is not here to punish us, but I've noticed, at least in my life, is that when I feel delayed on something, it's because I'm not actually focusing on what matters. And it's like,
Yeah.
it always is the heart. I'm not focusing on like the 7 people around me who like madly love me. I'm focusing on not being able to finish a book. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And Saturn's like, you're being so stupid and you're not listening. So I'm just going to like make you sit in limbo for another 8 months, and you're going to curse everything until you realize, oh, you have a beautiful dog. You live in a nice house with a nice person.
Yeah.
He wants us to live richly. So the delay, it helps me when I'm noticing a delay to be like, okay, how can I go deeper? How can I go in better?
Yeah.
How
That's
can I
really
make this
helpful.
difficult moment less difficult by accepting or acknowledge, like, you don't have to accept, even just acknowledging like what is making your life remarkable.
Yeah.
Remarkable, I think, is also a word that he likes. He wants you to be remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been feeling kind of in limbo, partly because I've like been off work with like having a surgery, and like I've been waiting to hear back about PhD programs, and that
Yeah.
decides like where I'll live next year. And so it's all just kind of been like, there's been so much that's been up in the air that it doesn't feel like there's one good thing to like latch on to, like
Yeah.
logistically. But I really like your advice of like, but you have so much to latch on to logistically. You have
Yeah.
people in your life who are taking care of you. Like my parents are taking care of me at their house right now, no questions asked. I have
Yeah.
friends coming over to visit. You asked me to do this. There's so
You're a
much.
brilliant writer. Yeah.
It's true. But there's like so much like richness, even when things are like swirling. So I think that's
Yeah.
really good advice.
There's also something else, is like when you apply to a PhD program, he's like, don't fill any other space. You're about to have all your space filled. Don't do anything else. Don't commit to anything else. Like, that's another Saturn thing, is like, hold. It'll be
Yeah.
harvest soon. There'll be a lot to do. Like you
Yeah.
can rest. He wants us to rest because we need to rest in order to do like
The hard stuff.
intense like output work. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We're spending a lot of time on him, and I didn't expect to talk about him because he's not like obviously connected to artistic practices in your chart. Like he obviously is. Like Saturn's in everyone's chart, influencing everyone, and this seems really important.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to make a little pivot, if that's
Yeah.
okay. So you have a 10th house sun in Mercury, which means that, and midheaven, which means that the top of your chart, the most public part of your chart, has like what animates you and makes you alive, the sun,
Interesting.
and like your communication, the way that you like show up in the world verbally and mentally and that kind of stuff. And your midheaven is the exact like geometric point of the top of your chart, which means it's like usually how people perceive you without having met you yet.
Yeah.
You have these like pretty demonstrative placements in the 10th house of visibility.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear about like how you feel about being seen, being perceived, performance, like basically being on stage metaphorically or actually. Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel like I don't get nervous about I like performing, and I don't get nervous about performing beforehand. I get nervous about performing afterwards. It's like after I get off stage, I feel like I hear waves in my ears and I get so nervous that I just made a big mistake, which is, and it happens like every time. I don't know why. But like
Yeah.
beforehand, I'm like, it'll be fine. I'll get up there, it'll be fine. And then afterwards, I get off and I'm like sweating, which I feel like is the opposite for most people. Like
Yeah,
they
maybe.
feel like usually like, oh, at least it's over, you know, like even
Yeah.
if it like wasn't exactly what they thought it would be. But I do like performing. I wonder if this has to do with being like a Gemini because I've always had like when I was a kid at home, I would be like so outgoing, so like super outspoken, like singing, dancing, whatever. And then I would get to school and I'd be clammed up, so shy. Like when I like
Yeah.
age like 6 to like 6th grade. And I still feel like there's a little bit of that in me
Hmm.
where like I can like turn it on and I am super like social, super good, but there's always like a like little bit of like you don't quite know me. You know, like
Yeah.
there's like a little something left that's not quite shown. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a Gemini thing or just a me thing.
So for people who are watching or listening, I wasn't clear that Eileen's sun, midheaven, and Mercury are in Gemini in the 10th house. Eileen is a Virgo rising. I'm using whole sign system, which means that every house is one whole zodiac sign. So every Virgo rising in my system has Gemini in the 10th house. Not every Virgo rising has Gemini sun and Mercury in the 10th house, like Eileen. Okay. Just to be clear for people who are just listening.
And maybe also for
There's
me.
a Gemini quality to that because Gemini is, especially with the Mercury in Gemini, Gemini has a quality, the ability to understand who's listening in their audience and speak to the audience and maybe not speak to the audience. There can be Gemini energy usually gets quieter when they aren't sure how their message will be received, which to me, to other people that could be manipulative. To me, that means that they're good messengers. Like they know that the power of their language changes depending on who's listening to it.
I would agree with
So
that. Yeah.
other people say that's manipulative. And I think like intention's important, but I think it's a great skill that not everyone has. And I think it's important to give some justice to Gemini energy because it's slandered too much. I also have Mercury and Sun in the 10th house. And I also have this experience, but mine are in Libra, both air signs. So there's a verbal kind of interpersonal quality to it. But I have a question. I wonder. Yeah. I wonder that when such personal planets are in a very public part of our chart,
Mhm.
it's a difficult place to feel comfortable all the time
Yeah.
because we know we're being watched. We know we're being perceived. We know we're being listened to. We know even if we're saying nothing, our message is being received.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of like over time, we have to decide if we're hiding or if we're showing, or like, is that middle moment. I usually like in my second room in my 30s now, I feel like I'm usually in the middle room or the middle place where I'm like, I know people are watching, but I don't want to be performing.
Yeah.
Where I think when I was younger, I was like, I had to choose, am I hiding or showing? Is that how it feels for you?
No, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Like, I feel like when I was younger, I was like a kind of like tipped to like too exposed, like I was
Yeah.
like, well, I feel like everyone knows everything, so I'm just going to share everything.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's my duty to just share. And now, like, I feel like around like age like 29, 30, 31, like I've really pulled back, like, especially on like social media and like, just like day to day, like, not everyone needs the whole story all the time. I don't but it doesn't feel like hiding either anymore. Like, it used to feel like I was, like, depriving, like, if I
Yeah.
didn't share everything, and
That's interesting.
now it's like, "No, I'm just not sharing everything with you." Is that kinda what you meant?
Well, I'm curious what okay, so there was before now, you felt maybe like you were depriving if you weren't showing up,
Like,
and you don't feel like you're hiding. So what's the in between word? 'Cause I think that's what I'm feeling too.
yeah, I think it's just like, it almost feels like protective maybe. Like I don't know if that's the right word though, but it feels like there's a protection from being overexposed.
Yeah.
There's like it's not quite like hiding, it's not like quite like a defensive, but it's like a like protecting of like the most sacred parts of me
Yeah.
without like, like I don't know. I think
I
about
wonder
this
if
a
it's
lot with like queerness as well
yeah.
because there is like especially with like the world, there is like the kind of debate, like there's this debate like obviously with like your personal life, like what do I tell people, what do I not tell people, how do I show up
Yeah.
in spaces? But then being queer, it's like how do I live proudly? How do I live so people younger than me see me and feel empowered? How do I live so people who came before me and lost their lives are honored? All these things. And then it's also like, but how am I safe?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I live a life where I'm not so out that I have become exposed to things or people that could hurt me?
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's ever, like, an answer of, like, you, like, will ever be completely safe or you will ever be, like, completely not exposed, but
Yeah.
in either situation, but it's something I think about a lot.
And I think with your there's like the default setting of your life, your chart is that you are exposed, you are shown, you are perceived, where other people don't have that default setting with their birth chart.
Yeah,
So then this like question of like, is it hiding? Is it just protecting myself? Is not a question for other people because they have greater access to their own privacy.
yeah,
I wonder if it's agency. Like the older we're getting to choose what and how. And that's why we don't have a word for it because other people have already had agency of how they show up.
yeah. I like agency as a word, yeah.
Yeah, because it feels like there's more choice, at least for me. Like I didn't show up online very much, at least not my face or voice, until recently. Like, well, me showing up online is like 1/8, 1/10, 1/100th of my life.
Yeah,
But this is where I get to put all the like, I have to show myself anyway, so I'm just gonna do it this way. And then everyone else in my life gets the real me or it gets
yeah,
the me that I give them. And that has changed stuff for me recently.
yeah,
Like I feel like I can share more online because I've like cordoned off much of my life from that, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
that makes sense.
So I'm choosing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that connect to
yeah.
something else you're thinking about?
I think it just makes sense to me. I think it's like that language rings true, and I think for me, in a lot of ways, I actually have been having this discussion recently. Like, for me, things don't, and I don't know if this is a chart thing, things don't feel real to me unless they're put into words. They don't, like, unless I can, like, concretely be like, this is what this experience is in like a
Yeah.
word or a phrase. Like, I'm kind of like, it still feels nebulous. It still feels like, what is going on here? And sometimes even like if I have the words for it, but I'm not sharing it with someone, like if I know what's happening, but it's just an echo chamber in my head of me saying it, it starts gaining all this power, and until I can be like, "Hey, this is what's going on with someone," it just,
Yeah.
like, builds and builds and builds, and until I, like, share those words with someone, it's like, "Right, that's it. That's what's happening," and all this, like, buildup kinda goes away. So, you having words for that was really helpful is the point of that, but I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a hard thing.
I'm curious on I don't know if you wanna get into, like, philosophical discussion, but what is real? Like, the word real. What
Yeah.
is the word real right now when you're talking about that?
I think, like, tangible is what I mean.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't feel like I don't feel like I can grasp it fully
Yeah.
until it has, like, words attached.
Yeah. In these situations, I think I see something in the chart, so I'm just looking to the side to check something. In these situations, is it usually like an interpersonal, like friendship or group thing where you just need to like say out loud what's happening and then they check back with language like, yep, that's what's happening? Is that kind of what it
Yeah,
is?
it's usually, like, an interpersonal or, even just, like, a personal thing.
Okay. Okay. So the checking of reality is also within yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
That's interesting.
yeah.
And cool. And I wonder, I don't know why I'm getting this nagging question, but I wonder if other people would benefit from seeing their confusion like that. You know, when they're feeling kind of like out to sea or they're not quite sure what's happening, that maybe if they heard you say, like putting words to it would get them out of confusion or at least like make them feel safer.
Yeah,
And you found that tool out of that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's it is very unique in your chart, and it seems like
yeah,
it is unique to you, but also, like, that seems like something we could share with the world, like
yeah,
because everyone experiences the unmoored, like, "What's even happening?" kind of
yeah,
feeling, but not everyone knows where to go from there.
yeah. That's true, yeah. For me, I it really does feel like an anchor. Like, it feels like all of a sudden I'm kinda like,
Yeah.
"Right, okay." And, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't solve it necessarily, but it just gives me, like, kinda, like, the context I need, and it makes it more like yeah.
It's making me think of I don't have an exact moment, but it's probably happened many times in my life where, like, I walk into a room and there's 4 or 5 people I know very well. And the air is different and everyone's moving different, and and I just have to say, "What happened?" You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, "Why are you standing there when you're always next to Tommy? And why are you all looking at me or why are you all looking over there?" Then reality makes sense because they either have to respond and lie to me
yeah,
or they have to respond and tell me what's happening. That's what this makes me think of.
yeah,
'Cause I'm aware that something's off, and I need language to tell me why.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there's 2 or 3 things I wanna talk about, but we're kinda coming up to time, so I wanna ask you, is there something you wanna talk about or ask about?
I'm really curious what your thing is that you wanna talk about.
Okay, which one do I wanna choose? I'm gonna say it really quickly. Jen and you both have this thing called a mutual reception between the same planets in the same signs.
Interesting.
And I know that you're aware of Jen and Nap's writing, and
Yeah,
Jen and Nap's aware of your writing. So I think this might be interesting to point out first, and then if we have time, we'll talk about another thing. So your Venus is in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Your moon is in Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So the
o
two planets, Libra and the moon, are in each other's signs.
okay.
And this is not a common thing where two planets are in each other's signs. What I've noticed in artist charts is that when there's a mutual reception, I was going to say, especially if it's closer to the midheaven, your Venus is close to your midheaven. But when there's a mutual reception in artist chart, that's usually the signature, like the vibe of their artwork that their audiences tend to walk away with.
Okay.
So if we're thinking about the archetype of Libra, Libra energy is very pleasing. It's all about balance. It's about understanding that dark and light both exist. And when they exist together, they work together. Like chiaroscuro, when there's a dark part of the painting and there's a light part of the painting, there's just more.
Yeah,
Libra has a lot to do with dynamism, but it feels very pleasant.
yeah,
So that definitely tracks for me when I'm looking at your
yeah,
work.
I would say that too.
Yeah. And then Cancer energy has so much to do with taking
Mm,
care of people, taking care of the body, taking care of memories, holding memories.
yeah,
This is definitely true about your writing and Jenna's.
Yeah.
But we're just sticking to those two archetypes. Like, yeah, when I walk away from you already, there's a little bit more of an unsettling nature
Yeah.
from those two archetypes. So there's influence, probably the Gemini Mercury influence.
Mhm.
But it does feel like I'm being taken care of. There's always a beautiful element, even if there's like teeth.
Yeah.
It's not like bloody teeth. It's like lover's teeth or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm checking that against you. Like, do you feel like you and Jenna have a similar like vibe, I guess, to your
I
writing?
would say that, yeah. I think we have similar vibes. I think we come at it from different like
Yeah.
writing forms though.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but I think like walking away, I think we have similar vibes.
Yeah.
If
So
that
that's
makes
just something I'm like chewing on. I'm like every once in a while going through other artists that I am aware of and seeing if they have mutual receptions and if that's true. It's a theory I'm working out through this
yeah. Yeah.
this creative access series, but it definitely feels true for you. Okay, so the thing I kind of wanted to, it was on the same vein as like being seen, being perceived. Every Virgo rising has Leo in the 12th house. So
Okay.
the first house is your Virgo house, and it goes all the way around, and the 12th house is right next to it.
Okay.
It's the last house, and it's the house that the first house can't see because it's like just behind the periphery.
Mm.
And that's where we start to describe the 12th house. Like we know it's there. We know whatever's happening here is there, but it's hard for us to access it. And Leo energy is the sun's energy. So it's the desire or the ability to be seen
Mm.
or the ability to feel appreciation or give appreciation. You know you're capable of it. You know you're able, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard for you to like choose it or to bring it out. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to pose this as a question. Because you have such a prominent sun, no matter what you're doing, you're being perceived. Someone's watching you, someone's experiencing you. Does it feel difficult for you to receive appreciation or receive perception or receive an audience, even though you know it's happening kind of constantly?
I think so. I think, and I don't want to sound like I don't think anyone likes me, but
Yeah.
like I remember one time I was having a birthday party and a friend pulled up on a bike and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he literally was like, "I'm here for your birthday party." And I was like so shocked that he had come to my birthday party. But it's like that kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm like, wait, what? Over and over in my life, I've kind of been like, you're showing up for me, like
Yeah.
you really, really like me,
Yeah.
like, and like not in like a like fake, oh, you don't really like me, but you actually like me, like kind of way, but
Yeah.
like genuinely shocked that like people are as nice to me as they are.
I think it's helpful to think of like the 12th house as like it's there, but we can't see it. So it's hard for us to remember that it's
Yeah,
there.
it's like
So it's
that.
not
Yeah.
like we're like, oh, like you're being bashful or annoying. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it honestly is in your subconscious mind so far down that it didn't occur to you until like the person was right in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how it feels when people tell you they've read your work?
Yes.
Okay.
Or like if people are like, "Oh, I really liked this," or if people show up to a reading or something, I'm like, "Oh, they're here for someone else.
Yeah.
They're here for the other person."
So how do you think this connects to the hiding versus withholding energy that we talked about earlier?
It does. I can't quite like place like how,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it definitely like there definitely is like I think that's why when you said agency, I said protective.
Yeah.
Because for you, it feels like a choice. And for me, it feels like I'm exposed and I'm exposed to people who aren't necessarily friends,
Yeah.
And like, even though like the people who are showing up with good intentions, it's so
Yes.
like you said, like behind that, it's like, there's like the fear of like, am I exposing
Yeah.
myself to people with bad intentions?
That the 12th house also rules, or one of the themes is unknown enemies. So people that do have bad intentions, but you don't know who or where, how far away they are. So that
Yeah.
makes sense that the word protection is important. By contrast, or maybe it could be helpful for you to think that my Leo house is in that house of the messy, like drudging up,
Mm.
like psychological like regurgitation kind of house. So I have a difficult connection to my sun being so high up in the sky as well. but it is different. To me, it's like I'm my own worst enemy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas for me, it's like it feels very like vulnerable, but not vulnerable, like where you're like making a connection with someone. Where it's like I need to be
Yes.
vulnerable in order to like like be in this world and make connections
Exist.
and have love. It's like vulnerable where it's like this could go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna ask you some questions off here about how you protect yourself, but
Okay.
we are at time, and I just want to say thank you so much for talking with me. I find
Yeah.
you to be very fascinating. And I will put Eileen's links and bio in the description. Please go read their work. And do you have artwork online somewhere?
I have like an art Instagram that has art and poetry.
Okay, so I'll
So
link
that
that
might
as well.
be the best place.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and follow Eileen on what's it called at
Uh,
Eileen Joy.
Geez, let me look. It's my full name. I have to look.
No, you have
Uh, sorry. It's Eileen J_Stillwell.
okay. Yeah. Follow them there and absorb all of their work. And is there anything else you want to say before we hop off?
I want to say thank you to you. It's
Oh,
always so enlightening and a little frightening when we talk about my chart, but it's always so much fun to see you and chat.
yeah. And yeah, this is good. So you're my third interview and it's already feeling amazing. Okay, so for people who are watching, thank you for watching or listening and come back for the next one. I'm releasing these like every week or so. We'll see. I don't really exist in the weekly or monthly time world that people can do because I have chronic illnesses. So love ya. Have a good day. Eileen will stay on though. I'm gonna
Okay.
stop.